Alright, I do this all the time, but I thought this would be good for a video for those users out there that need quick help for some reason. So here's the trolley, here's the trigger housing, here's the cutoff. This modification is to make sure that semi-auto always works when the gun shoots full automatic, and it shouldn't be. What you want to check, and a lot of AEGs have this problem, I've said this before, how your cutoff comes in and grabs it. How this works is this goes forward on your trigger contacts, and this is supposed to pull it up. When it does that, the trigger bypasses, allowing this spring on top of this to pull this back. You let go of the trigger, and there's a spring on the trigger, so it pulls back under and grabs the trolley for another ready to pull trigger. So by that time this goes up, falls back down after it has picked it up. So what the mod is doing, that I'm doing right here, is that it can't reach the arm. Okay, there's a big space, and you notice this problem more often when you have a LiPo. The reason is because of the increase the trigger response and the rate of fire that your gun's just, this cutoff is not going to pull if there's a huge space. So let's pull this out so you can see what I'm talking about. Got the arm right here, and zoom in on that real quick. Okay, so we got the arm right here, and here's the cutoff, and so it grabs like this. However, this one's made and it's like that, so there's this hole before it gets to the cutoff and grabs it. Now the way this is made, you're going to want to somewhat copy, because you need it to get under the arm the way the arm's made, so you can see, and be ready to grab. If you block the arm, you can't pull this forward, so you couldn't pull your trigger. So you want to make sure that there's enough removed that it can get back under. This is a little bit advanced, but what you do here is, if there's space for in between, you need to add a JBweld before. If there's space, if there's not much after, you can add some after and Dremel this off. It just depends on how yours is set up. Now, some modifications I use instead is I cut this down and I put a screw in here, and then shave it to be like this arm. So you have a metal screw, it's a metal arm, and there's no way of it ever breaking, because this metal and this is plastic, and eventually it does sometimes break this down, especially if this is not thick right here. But this is a good material, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to do this modification instead. Therefore, bring out the JBweld, right? So we got the JBweld here. Use glasses, or excuse me, gloves if you need them. Okay, there's the JBweld. Use a toothpick or something to mix it, and you want about 50-50. Okay, so we got the white and the black here, and this is regular JBweld, not JBweld Quick or anything like that. JB Quick. You're going to want to take this and scar it down. So sand it down with rough paper. Take something sharp and hard and just roughen up the whole area. So for this to work properly on the ICS PCR 97, I need to add JBweld in the back here, and then shape it similar to this, so it will never full auto on semi-auto. So the way I get this to get all the JBweld is I stand it up like like this. I had no problem doing it earlier, now I do. I mean, come on. Alright, so you stand it up like that. You could tape it down, which I'll probably do towards the end of the video, but you just want to stand up and get all the JBweld in there. There's another way you could do it, is basically take this, cut off a section of it, and have this hanging up on something, as an example. Okay, because you can use a board or whatever and then Dremel that off, cut it down, so you don't have to worry about that. The thing is with JBweld, it kind of gloops down over time, and so you want about 12 hours before you start to reshape it. At least I'm not a professional JBwelder, but every time I've done this, 12 hours before you start cutting it down at least, and then 24 hours to cure. So we're going to go ahead and mix this. Yes, I talked too much, I realized that. But if you're watching this, you want my helpful advice, so I'm guessing, you know, the more I talk, at least you're learning something. Okay, so you want a nice gray color. And the trick with this is you definitely have to keep mixing it. You want it to be a really good mix. Okay, it's not going to bond together if it's not a good mix of white and black. Okay, so you can see there, that's a good mix. Now what I do is wipe this off, and now I'll go ahead and grab some of the JBweld. So I'm gonna stand this up here, and it doesn't look like I'm gonna get enough. Actually, now that I think about it, you could do either way. You could do it this way, as long as you can get as much as you need. You can see it's kind of gloopy, and then just add it to the area that you want it to be added on. Don't worry, you know, if you get too much, because you're going to cut it down. So you just want to add it. I guess I'm just going to do it this way. Now that might seem like enough right there, but from my experience that is really not enough, because it kind of gloops down, so you want to get more. And just leave it on there. See, I'm just putting more in the same spot. Make sure it sticks on the back too. Alright, so now I'm going to let this sit for 12 hours. Okay, so here's the finished result. So you can see the cutoff, and I'm getting up close and personal, so you can see there's a very tiny hole that allows the cutoff to move. You can see the JBweld right after that. Just to point it out, where's my pointer? Here it is. Right here is where you're supposed to be looking. Okay, there's a tiny bit of gray. See that tiny bit of gray after the metal that moves with it? That is the JBweld, and it's shaped to still fall under the trolley. You see how it falls under. You want to make sure that it falls under and it can still pull up completely. So that's with these parts in. You take this out and keep shaving it down till it's proper. So as soon as I move the trolley forward, I cannot lift up the cutoff arm. So that would count as a semi-pull if the cutoff is held down with the spring on the back from the selector. So it would work properly in this case.